Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's about 12:20 on March 20th. It's kind of an overcast day with temperatures in the mid-50s right now. And if you don't recognize where we are, it's at the corner of 2nd Avenue and 43rd Street. You may see Grand Central in the distance. And if we look at this parking sign, we know we're near the UN, or we can guess we're near the UN because it looks like this whole side of the block is reserved for cars with diplomatic license plates. So we are on 43rd Street now, walking east while we still can, because the next intersection is 1st Avenue, and that's as far east as we can walk, as far as I can recall. This building is named the Cloister, not to be confused with that other place named the Cloisters up in Fort Washington and Fort Bryant Park, the medieval branch of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We're going to get another look at this building. This may be part of Tudor City. I think we'll know in a few minutes.
Rolling in stuff, and I didn't see you had a dog, and then I looked up and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and this is Tudor City. It is an historic district now. I didn't know that, but you can tell that from the street name signs because they're brown. And it looks like they're preparing for some kind of film shoot here. Okay. And we have the NYPD unit, or a unit from the NYPD unit that assists location filming. That's what they're doing, assisting location filming. And we are in the middle of Tudor City. And again, it's March 20th. Oh, it's 3/20/2022. An outdoor dining structure. So let's take a look at this park. I believe it is private and run by Tudor City. So we'll just look at it from the outside. In my 50 years of living in New York, I have never been up here. I've passed under this many times when you go all the way to the eastern end of 42nd Street. you pass under this. We're going to pass over 42nd Street in a minute. But I've never made it to the top until now. This is 42nd Street looking west. So 42nd Street appears to be closed to normal human beings, and I think this car is trying to figure out, what am I doing here? Where am I going?
We're on 42nd Street, right?
So, getting ready for a parade of some kind, a protest. It is March 20th, 2022. Maybe it's a celebration of the last day of winter. Maybe it's a parade in honor of the Senate passing all-time daylight savings time. Anyway, here we have the UN Secretariat building. You can kind of get a peek in between the taller buildings of the General Assembly building. We can see that 42nd Street is blocked off by NYPD. Doesn't look like First Avenue is too crowded either. So let's just look briefly across the river. So, in the distance is the Hunters Point area of Queens. Hunters Point is a neighborhood within the larger neighborhood of Long Island City, but with so much development over the years, deserves its own neighborhood name. And then, if we can see the gantries that say Long Island on them, those were formerly used to ship rail cars across the East River between Manhattan and Queens, and or between Jersey and Queens. They no longer serve that purpose, but they do provide the inspiration for the name of the park where they're located. It's Gantry Plaza State Park. It's a very nice waterfront park. Go visit it sometime. I recall it opened around 2001. So we're inside this park now. We're just going to look at the sign, and I think we'll respect that this is a private park. Well, it does say welcome. That's very nice. Okay. So we started this walk, and I forgot to greet you all. This is infrared, and I'm walking around the UN, so you don't have to. So we're now heading west on 41st Street. We're descending from the elevated park and plaza level of Tudor City. We're approaching the intersection of 2nd Avenue. 2nd Avenue and 41st Street. We're going to turn right or north on 2nd Avenue, just briefly. Until we get to 42nd Street. And it's our goal to just keep walking on 42nd Street from 2nd Avenue to as far west as we can. Oh, close one. All right. Can't figure out what the status of the street is, but 42nd Street is definitely closed to traffic for now. Here's a select bus service station for the M15 SBS. And this was the first SBS route in Manhattan, I think. And these digital signs were erected, the countdown clocks to the next bus arrival. They're becoming more standardized throughout the city. That was kind of a pilot. We are going to, even though I said we're going to walk west, we're going to go back east on 42nd Street a bit because we haven't seen this side of the block.
All right, maybe that's why that. Thank you for your trouble.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for not getting hit.
Hey. We didn't cross here to see McFadden's bar. Maybe some other time. So we have, I'm guessing this building across the street is part of Tudor City. It's the Church of the Covenant. Again, restricted parking for diplomats. Some of the Tudor City buildings are quite tall. This is looking back at the elevated portion that we just left. We were standing on that overpass just a few minutes ago. But mostly the reason we crossed the street is so that you could see the exterior and a little bit of the interior of the Ford Foundation building. So, in some contrast to the Tudor City architecture across the street, this was designed and built a little bit later. And it was quite striking when it was first opened in the 60s for the interior garden. That's a reflection of Tudor City. And the skylight. All right. Let's go back to walking west on 42nd Street. By the way, before we leave, let's just all the way down at the end of 42nd Street. On the right, you may see a kind of low-rise beige building peeking out from behind the last Tudor City tower. That's a ventilation shaft for the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Here's a sign pointing to the Queens Midtown Tunnel. The sign looks like it was posted when the tunnel was open. What, 60 years ago? 70? This building, let's see if we can guess who's located here. So, Pfizer, I think there's some kind of pharmaceutical company. Then across the street we have, of course, the building everyone recognizes. They've seen it before. Well, let's go across the street and take a closer look. Some of you know that building is the Daily Planet building from the Superman movie series of the late 70s and early 80s. All right, let's cross here. No one really seems to mind. And this is a most unusual day in terms of 42nd Street being closed to traffic. Wider angle view of the Pfizer building. Now we can see to the top. Oh. Okay. Pfizer also used to have a large factory manufacturing facility in Brooklyn, but they vacated it 10 or more years ago. So, the news building. And just briefly, it is a landmark. of the city. The Daily News is no longer here in this building, that is. I think they publish from West 34th Street or 33rd. But let's just get a picture of this landmark plaque. Any individual building that has been designated a landmark in New York City has a plaque like that, provided by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and giving a brief history of the building. I believe this used to be a Helmsley Hotel. Corleone Helmsley. Now we get our first full-length view of the Chrysler Building. This is 3rd Avenue, heading north, looking south. I'm not sure, but I think this building used to be the headquarters of Mobil Oil. The Chrysler Building, and I don't know what that is. New Hampshire? No. We're crossing Lexington Avenue. And across the street is the Hyatt Grand Central. When it was opened in the early 80s, it was the Grand Hyatt. There was, I think, since the 20s, a hotel at this spot. I don't remember the name, the original name of the hotel that was on this spot, and then Hyatt acquired this and did a complete renovation of the hotel, including this, which it was a bar that was cantilevered over 42nd Street. It was a nice place to have a drink. I don't know what it is now. It looks like all the windows have been frosted over. Cipriani, a big event space. Coming up ahead is Pershing Square, where Park Avenue is elevated over 42nd Street, as it has been since Grand Central was completed in 1913. And here we have Grand Central and the statue of Mercury at the top, and the statue of Vanderbilt just peaking the upper half of his body just above the roadway level, and in the center arched window of Grand Central. And this is Pershing Square, and the name of this eating establishment is Pershing Square. Actually, it says Central Cafe. Now I'm really confused. Here, which seemingly went up overnight, is One Vanderbilt. And there's a new observatory at or near the top of it. This building is headquarters to Altria. Those of us of a certain age may remember it more fondly as Philip Morris. We're going to cross again briefly. Well, it looks like this part of 42nd Street is open, and this is the southwesternmost entrance to Grand Central. We're at Vanderbilt Avenue. This used to be a thoroughfare, a narrow one for vehicles, but it's now a pedestrian plaza. So, great place to just rest just before arriving at Grand Central, or especially after a 2-hour train ride. And for a real New York chicken sandwich, you have to look no further than across the street. This is an entrance to One Vanderbilt, or that One Vanderbilt provided. An additional entrance to Grand Central, to the railroad, to the subway, and soon to East Side Access, which will be a lowest level of Grand Central, newly constructed to connect to the Long Island Railroad. So that Long Island Railroad trains will be able to come into Grand Central for the first time. We're at Madison Avenue now. We're facing south. Well, maybe the reason some of those streets were blocked off maybe could be explained with this, but don't. All right, PwC, for all you fans of large accounting firms. Let's look at one Vanderbilt. Whoa, one last time. And let's then get it in perspective with the Chrysler Building. I really do like the name of this, Sugarfina. It's a pretty unambiguous name for describing what's sold inside. I would think if there were a half marathon, it would be over by now. Because it's almost 1 p.m. We are crossing 5th Avenue. So, to our left, the main branch of the New York Public Library. Alright, let's get a brief look at the lions. The lions, which were originally put up there as props for the film Ghostbusters in the early 80s, but have stayed up ever since. Actually, this sign needs updating. As of a few months ago, in addition to the trains here, you can get the NQRW at Times Square and the ACE at 8th Avenue. If I believed in conspiracies, I would think maybe they haven't, New York City Transit hasn't updated the signage because they could get marginal additional revenue from people who don't know that they can get a free transfer here. Entrance across the street. 11 West 42nd Street. The Grace Building. I don't know what you would call it. It's not really a parabolic structure. There's another building that looks very similar with that same general shape and coloring at 9 West 57th Street. So we are now in Bryant Park, which is in back of the main branch of the public library. And a lot of the books that are stored for this public library or in the public library are actually stored underneath here in vaults under this elevated promenade here. Bryant Park, as late as the late 80s, was considered dangerous. It was a place to be avoided. Not anymore. Let's see what's happening over here. Well, I have to admit, I am totally surprised by this. I didn't know this was happening, but it looks like they've taken almost half of the park out for some kind of major upgrade. All right, we'll go online when we get home and figure out what's happening here. Oh. This says Bryant Park Reading Room, so we'll be quiet as we pass. And I'm not sure, Bryant Park may have its own conservancy where it raises private funds to help with the maintenance and upgrade of the park. Maybe we can tell from this sign. Yes, okay. At the top of the sign it says Bryant Park Corporation, so that is like the Central Park Conservancy or Brooklyn Bridge Park Corporation or Prospect Park Alliance. It's a private organization that raises funds and maybe oversees the maintenance and some capital planning as well. Here we go, and these restrooms here are operated by the park. In the interest of full disclosure, I've never been in there, but they're very popular on weekends, and sometimes there is a line that reaches all the way to here to get into that restroom. So there must be something pretty good inside. By the way, it says BDFM and 7, and it used to be up until 1971 that if you wanted a free transfer between the BDF and the 7, you had to exit there. You got a ticket from a ticket dispensing machine, and you walk to the corner of 6th Avenue. You enter at the entrance at the corner, and then you hand in your ticket. But something far more interesting seems to be taking place here. Okay. I don't know. Hopefully not on the G train. We are now at the corner of 6th Avenue. Go. Here. What's within a 5-minute radius, walking radius? And what's within 15 minutes? Here, the Bank of America Tower. It is a large bank after all. Here, Salesforce Tower. So this is 6th Avenue. The street sign there also says Avenue of the Americas. But if you say Avenue of the Americas, then you are definitely self-identifying as being from out of town. More. They actually need these maps in this area, need them every block, probably. Now this is interesting. This is a city bike station, and there are no city bikes, and it's covered with fabric covers that say out of service. So I guess they don't want to have a lot of stray bikes if there is going to be a half marathon running through here. Say a Verizon store, you don't see one of those every day. And a poster inside this passageway for Doubtfire. This passageway goes from 42nd all the way through to 43rd. Maybe this is the beginning of 6.5 Avenue. So we are coming to the intersection of 42nd and Broadway, and this building was in an earlier incarnation and without all the advertising on it, the headquarters of the New York Times, hence the name Times Square. All right, let's wait. Welcome to Times Square. Don't kill yourself becoming a pedestrian statistic. So here we have across the street the pedestrian plaza that was first created more than 10 years ago, is being upgraded. I think this is the last stage of an upgrade. Last I checked, it was $51 million. I'm sure it's more than that. But while we're waiting to cross, so again, it's Sunday afternoon. It's about 1:09 p.m. and in the mid-50s, kind of windy, overcast, and yet we have a fair number of people arriving in Times Square. So we're walking north on what used to be Broadway, which is now Plaza, and you'll see signs all around talking about pedestrian flow zone. I think they were put up there expressly to be ignored. There are also temporary signs directing people to the subway entrance. Signs like this posted all over. And this, I don't know. Is it public art? Is it something to sit on and rest? You decide. Okay, here we have, I think this is where the ABC Good Morning America studio is. Let's see. There's NYPD's Times Square station. And, I mean, nothing so special about Hard Rock Cafe other than it is unique to New York. This is the only one I know of. But this is in the old Paramount Theater building, and there's the Paramount logo at the top, also known as 1501 Broadway. This was Starbucks, I'm guessing, was opened to coincide with the opening of the Paramount Theater in the 30s. Oh, so that wasn't the ABC studio we were looking in. This is ABC. This is ABC. It did say NASDAQ on the side of the other building. And look, maybe we see the Good Morning America logo in it. All right, whatever. I've never seen the show myself. Oh yeah. This is one sign that we're returning to a post-pandemic normal when you have aggressive Minnie Mouses here. Minnie Mouse collaborating with Batman and G.I. Joe. I don't know.
Yeah, you see me and the Buddhists standing next to each other. You see it.
Where's the Gap? Did this used to be a Toys R Us? There was a Toys R Us here. I think with a Lego model of the World Trade Center. That was in good taste. Look in the distance, the beacon that beckons all. Krispy Kreme. Grab a dozen now. Eat them before you get back on the train. All right. So, just looking. Looking not to get run over. All right. Marriott Marquis. This did have a revolving restaurant. I don't know if it still does. Oh, Mickey and Minnie. But Minnie is also working a couple blocks back, so I don't know. Maybe it's a stunt double.
Naked, just paint.
In the street?
Yeah.
Because the Harley brand, they call it crazy parties going on there. So I went over there.
So we are now walking south on 7th Avenue. 7th Avenue has remained open to traffic, even though Broadway was converted to a pedestrian plaza. Sign of the times. see in the distance the St. James Theater, Sardi's, the Schubert Theater.
This feels like pre-pandemic.
This is like pre-pandemic.
Friday was this is crazy.
How was the half marathon?
Yeah, good.
Weather was perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This one could be harder than the half.
Oh my God. The stops and the stops. I'm ready for Gantry, man. Where's the white stuff?
I think she just ran the half marathon. Crossing 43rd. Yikes. That's a serious looking set of vans there. And so, Life Safety Systems Division Mobile Command Post. Does sound serious. Well, if this vendor's sign is telling the truth, he makes keys. That would be great. Give me a shawarma and copy this key, please. Times Square, even the subway entrances contribute to the sensory overload. We're now looking west on 42nd Street in the block between 7th and 8th Avenues. We are going to walk down it. Okay, thank you. The new Victory Theater. Harry Potter. I think I saw 42nd Street there right after 9/11. Aladdin. Did I see Rent here? Lion King? If this video could convey the smell of the roasting nuts, the deceptive smell. The the smell that makes you want to buy them and then regret that you did. Oh. What can you say? I'm more interested in the business hours here. 11 a.m. to 4 a.m. Assume that's 4 a.m. 4 p.m.? No. You're never too young to experience Times Square. Oh boy. And they're going in. Fabulous. And they get to see Jimmy Fallon to boot. Should be called Franchise Square. Chain Square. We are approaching the corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. And competing with all the chains, a halal cart on every corner. Actually, 2. Again, non-conforming subway station entrances. Two within feet of each other, and another one across the street. How many halal carts can this town support? So, no visit to Times Square would be complete without a visit to the Port Authority bus terminal, or as Marge said, the bus terminal is only one of the places we came to visit, or something like that. So, everyone who visits New York should visit Port Authority, but very few allot sufficient time to do it. That's why we're here. There was a time when this cab line would move really quickly. We're in front of the North Terminal of Port Authority. The North Terminal was the more recently built one, I think in the early 80s. And when we cross 41st Street, we'll be at the South Terminal, which is the original bus terminal, although it was upgraded to the point where it's almost unrecognizable in the 70s. And then the New York Times didn't move far from Times Square. This is their building. And across the street, next to the New York Times building, appears to be a cart that is selling weed. Okay. This being March 20th of 2022, weed is not available for retail sale yet. So, before we go inside, let's just take a look at this statue. If you could read the small print, it says presented by the people of TV Land. So that statue's probably not going to be protected under the landmark law. Okay. Now let's go in. It's good that they put this information booth here. 50 years ago, the nearest information booth was downstairs. You had to know to go downstairs to get to the information booth. And this certainly wasn't here 50 years ago. The first time I was in Port Authority Bus Terminal in this wing, which was the only wing at the time, 1969, and there were a number of small vendors in the middle of this concourse. One of them was Rappaport's Toy Bazaar. So if in the early 60s you ever had any correspondence with the makers of Matchbox toys or the U.S. distributor Fred Bronner Imports in New York City, they would always include a page with their correspondence saying where you could buy Matchbox toys, and the only one listed in the Northeast United States was Rappaport's Toy Bazaar in the Port Authority bus terminal. It would have been like right here. So to me, that was almost as thrilling as seeing the headquarters of Mad Magazine. This is the central ticketing area. The central restroom area appears to be closed, but there are restrooms upstairs. I think this may be one of the original doors from the original bus terminal here. Just look at the ticket windows and the several different companies that operate here. Trailways. Greyhound closed, but Greyhound also has windows in the North Terminal, I think. And I think Trailways will sell you a Greyhound ticket. So don't despair. But apparently, getting your own tickets from a machine is prohibitive. Let's go to the North Terminal, which is the newer part. Come on, restrooms downstairs. So let's look for a sign to the North Terminal. The North Terminal will be on our left. We may have to go downstairs before we can get to the North Terminal. This was part of the 70s upgrading, was creating this higher ceiling here. In the original configuration, the ceilings were all this lower height that you see ahead. Brooklyn Deli. I'm sure this is great. And here we go. There's a passage, not a very well marked one. Oh wait, maybe not one at all. Okay, no, this is just for gates 60 to 85. So, I think we're going to have to go downstairs in order to go to the North Terminal. There we go. We do have a passage to the North Terminal. I'm sorry, North Wing. Maybe I was just looking for the wrong terminology. Well, some of this looks new to me, which wouldn't be hard because I haven't been in here in several years. But I did say before that I thought there was a Greyhound ticket office in the North Wing. And here we are. So here's Greyhound. Here's the Greyhound Departure Board. Peter Pan. That's cool. And what is this machine? There's one here. Let's see on other walks if we can find them in other locations. Before we talk about it. So let's go up one level to street level. Here we are at street level in the north wing of Port Authority, and look how much different it is than the south wing. Now, this has been here since the north wing was open to the public pretty much in the early 80s. It is working. So it is working, but when it was first opened in the early 80s, the conveyor belt that brings these pool balls, these billiard balls, up to the top so that they can begin their journey down, used to operate a lot faster speed. So you would see more balls coming down here per minute than you do now. So the bus terminal, like the rest of the city, maybe the rest of the world, is full of mixed messages. Sing for hope. Welcome to New York. No trespassing. Welcome. I think maybe this is a good place to end. In the Port Authority bus terminal. We began this walk at 43rd Street and 2nd Avenue. So that's accessible from any train at Grand Central, pretty much any train that stops at 42nd Street. And today we're ending at the Port Authority bus terminal. Let's just point to the escalator down here. We'll see how we connect to the subway. The term Greyhound baggage on that sign, I think, requires some meaning, some explanation. So, the first food greeting people coming off of buses in this part of the bus terminal. Dunkin' Donuts. And here we have the entrance to the subway. And again, the sign needs to be upgraded because now, in addition to all these trains, you can access the B, D, and F and M. All right. So, enjoy your ride on the train. This is infrared, and this is what you've been watching.